Yo, what up, guys? It's Flark, and I got something special for you guys today. A lot of people have ironically and then unironically asked me to make a blood decay guide, and obviously I never saw a purpose to do that. But then Solo Shuffle came out, and tanks get really fast queues, and they only queue into other tanks, and also you're represented on the leaderboards by your spec rating. So all of a sudden, Blood got a lot more fun. I've been getting instantaneous solo shuffle queues, so this is really good for you if you want to just push rating fast or get conquest and honor fast. They're instantaneous, they're fast, they're strong. So I concocted a build, and I think I shocked myself with how good this is. This is absolutely insane. You'll notice my last game has a familiar face. That is thugonomics, one of the best players on planet Earth. And you can see my damage was truly remarkable. I was the top in all 6 players with some decent single target in every single game. I'll show you guys in clips at the end. I had a 43k death strike or something crazy. So this is a real deal. The pressure is there. It's completely disruptive, and it's absolutely viable in a solo shuffle environment. So, okay, guess I'm doing this then. Let's get into itemization. Itemization for blood, you want a lot of verse because it's the best stat for PvP, and you want a lot of haste because you can build up Death Strike Sanguination stacks really quickly. We'll talk about all that in the talents section. But also because your globals are actually impactful. You want to kind of spam through your rotation as quick as possible and get as many Death Strikes off as you can, which requires runic power generation. So haste is really good. Then you'll throw in some crit because Death Strike crits are what's tremendous. I have about 20% right now, and then a little bit of mastery as well for the attack power and the blood shield, which ends up giving you a big talent 25% physical damage effect, which we'll also talk about. So that's a little bit of every stat, but they do have priority. So like verse at the top, then haste right underneath it, like right underneath it. Then down a while is crit, and then down from there is mastery. So it's not like they're all even. They do have that order. But yeah, those are how you're going to get your stats laid out. Then for legendaries, and this is very important, of course, you still want your Unity, and yes, you're back to using the Necrolord from my last build. So yes, Necrolord Unity, Necrolord Covenant, but then Death Certainty is extremely important. This is Death Strike damage, which, like I said, is going to be hitting very hard, and you're going to pair it with Sanguination, the Runeforge as well. But yeah, this is just insanely good. You need a modifier to your biggest damaging single target ability. And then Sanguination, the Runeforge, also gives you a massive modifier to this ability, and that's where the 41k Death Strikes come, paired with a bunch of talents. And yes, I did hit one, and yes, it will be on clip, and yes, it was in rated PvP against people with verse. So yeah. Pretty remarkable. Then you, of course, want to put in a badge and just macro it to your Dancing Rune weapon, because that's your burst window. And since you're playing solo shuffles mostly with this, you want as much upfront damage as possible. So, of course, you're going to want badge over anything else, even though Insignia has haste. And that's your quick and easy itemization. The biggest points, verse and haste are really good. Death Certainty is really good. Sanguination is your Runeforge, and badge is your Trinket. Okay, but now let's talk about the talents, because that's what you guys really care about. Remember, the top 5 are always picked. These are just core rotational abilities. So let's see what the choices I made here were. Heart Strike damage is great. You have another PvP modifier for this from a PvP talent called Blood for Blood, which makes it do 60% more damage at the cost of your health. But believe me, you ain't dying. I think I've done, 70 rounds, and I haven't died in a single one of them. So nope, that's not going to be a problem. Blood for Blood and this Heart Strike modifier. Then you want your Dancing Rune weapon. This is your main offensive cooldown, and you want the entire Dancing Rune weapon row. This reduces the cooldown and gives you some bone shield charges from pressing it, which is kind of nice. Just gives you haste and stam, aiding to the fact that you never die. And then this is just an extra buff to your Dancing Rune weapon to make it last way longer and do a lot more damage, which is fantastic because this is your burst window, like I said. So all the Dancing Rune weapon package is an absolute must. Okay, so now you want Hemostasis, and this is another Death Strike damage modifier. When you hit targets with Blood Boil, your Death Strike does more damage. So again, this is part of that haste, where if you have fast globals, you can buff Death Strike, then spend it, then buff Death Strike, then spend it. And Blood Boil, hitting a lot of targets is very easy when you have A-Bomb Limb still from your Necrolord Covenant, and at 70, you'll get it from your talent, of course, and Gorfine's Grasp, and Grip, and Blind, and a 90% D&D slow. Lots of ways to or rather in this build, you'll be using just chains for slows, but it's the same thing. Lots of ways to keep them in a big pile. And press Blood Boil, which has 2 charges and costs nothing. So easy to just press Blood Boil, then get the big Death Strike, then press Blood Boil, then get the big Death Strike. So that's Hemostasis. It's just a Death Strike modifier. Then you go down here and you get some verse modifiers here. This is just a damage buff effectively. That's what that's going to do for you when you proc Crimson Scourge, which you have by default, so don't worry about that. Rapid Decomp is just a little bit more Blood Plague damage and a little bit more healing. Blood Worms end up doing a decent amount of damage. You can see I just went down all the things that do damage. This is really good. And when you press Blood Boil, you put on Blood Plague, so it's going to be on everybody by default, and then it increases more damage done by you. So that's just another damage modifier. And also then when you press Death Strike, which you'll be pressing all the time, then there's another Blood Plague modifier. So you can see I'm just getting all of the things that do damage as blood, because we're not tanking any raid bosses and nobody kills us. I mean, we're truly immortal in a solo shuffle environment. I have never died, which allows you to get every single damage modifier and nothing else, which ends up making, as you saw from these meters and as you'll see from the clip, a high damaging spec. Furthermore, and it gets crazy here, here's another modifier. Press D&D, stand in it, do more damage. Easy. This is your mastery. Blood Shield is your mastery. So when you Death Strike, you get a Blood Shield that absorbs physical damage. And while you don't really care about this, because again, you're immortal, it allows you to get Bloodshot. And this is the modifier to end all modifiers. Blood Shield is active. That's your mastery. Again, like I said, you deal 25% increased physical damage. So think about all those modifiers that you just got. Give yourself another 25% modifier to all physical damage, which is both Heartstrike and Death Strike, which both do a ton. Now you have yet another Death Strike modifier, and I don't have to tell you why you press that, or why you take that. And then I just got the damage stuff on this side. Ossuary makes runic power. Death Strike costs less runic power, which allows you to spam more of them, which is fantastic. Then you get this health buff only so you can get the haste from Bone Shield, and I told you haste was a great stat. You're going to have Bone Shield active pretty much all the time. 1 Marrow Rend with Dancing Rune Weapon gives you 10 stacks. Because Dancing Rune Weapon gives you 5 stacks by pressing it. So then you just have your haste buff for the rest of the game because nobody hits you and nobody takes this off. And that is the blood setup. Generally, this is the point where I give you guys alternatives, but we're not PvEing. The alternatives are all the tank stuff. There's only one damaging talent that I really didn't pick, and you can't go down this road to get it without sacrificing your entire Death Strike setup, which is what I'm doing. That does so much damage. So while that is a strong ability, you cannot go for it. Maybe it's 70. You can add that to your repertoire. But right now, there is actually nothing left to go over because I gave you all of the best damaging talents. And again, we're not PvEing. We're not Mythic raiding, right? We're not doing Mythic plus dungeons. So we're not trying to be survivable. So this is what you run. This is probably the most set in stone one of my guides has ever been. That probably makes it easy for anybody who wants to just like get in and go. They don't want to make decisions. So there you go. Decision made for you. For the left side, again, once you hit 70, you're going to grab A-Bomb Limb in addition to Empower Rune Weapon. But again, haste is incredibly impactful. Pressing Empower and then getting the haste buff from Bone Shield just smooths out my rotation so much. So of course you're going down to get Empower, Icy Talons for just more melee damage. You can reduce their melee damage. You get a little bit more Runic for more Death Strikes. And then I just got all the modifiers that I could. Here's a Strength modifier. Here's a Crit modifier. Big IBF, of course. Asphyxiate for CC. Death Strike costs less, so you can spam even more of those. And then I macroed in Raise Dead to my Dancing Rune Weapon. So he summons my little pet, which reduces damage done to me, which is not that impactful, but makes yet another modifier because now I'll do 6% increased damage to them. Then otherwise, you know, Death Strike healing, stamina, some survivability options, Wraith Walk for movement, AMS for CC prevention, IBF for CC prevention, Blind for a CC. You can grip everybody in, blind them all. If anybody trinkets, stun their trinket, and then just hit them for a 40k Death Strike. You'll see a lot of that in the clips. But again, this is not hard. This guide is going to be fast and furious and easy. And that's probably a good change of pace after all the options that I've shown you guys in my previous DK builds with like 6 different builds. You don't know what to choose from. With blood, boom, right on the screen. Don't have to think, don't have to theory craft. Swear to God, I'll have the description. I will have the build linked right down there, okay? You just copy it, you put on the abilities on your bar, you get into Solo Shuffle, and you hammer. You absolutely hammer. That is all you have to do. Absolutely nuts. But the last thing we'll go through real quick. Well, let me make sure you saw my PvP talents. These are important. Blood for Blood I already talked about. Decomp Aura is just awesome. It makes them have 15% less maximum health, so less health you have to go through. And this is a big boy, so I'm glad I didn't skip this. Death Chain. This is a crazy ability. There's no other mechanic like this in the entire game. It makes all the damage taken, not just your damage that you deal to these players, but all the damage taken by people that you chain together, 20% of that goes to everybody else who's been chained together. So that includes a warlock hitting them on your team or a rogue hitting them on your team. Let's say you chain a warlock to a warrior on the enemy team, and then your DK on your team, that's not you, or maybe your mage, casts like Pyroblast at one of the players. The other player in the chain takes 20% of that damage. So you can only imagine how compounding, how well that scales with AoE damage, because they all take the AoE damage and then they take a little bit of it again from Death Chain. And I'll bring up my meters again. Look how much it did that game. 67k, 20% of my damage in a short game. You just grip them all together. You put all your effects on them. You Dancing Rune, you Hard Strike, you Blood Boil, you start spamming Death Strikes, and you put them in a Death Chain while they're all limbed together. And even if they spread apart, it won't break. And that Death Chain is an AoE effect. So let me show you what it looks like here. Let me show you this. Boom. See that? Chained to chain to chain. Now when I press an ability, you can see all these little numbers coming out. Where are those coming from? That's the players taking damage from the Death Chain. It is so unique, so niche, so crazy, and it is amazing in a solo shuffle environment where you can group everybody together. It's going to be tank double DPS because you don't queue into healers when you queue as a tank, so you've pretty much locked and loaded that you're going to get some cleavable targets. You're going to chain them all together and just nuke with A-bomb limits. Incredible. I'll show you the guys the rotation right after, but let me finish with Covenants real quick. Of course, it is Necrolord. I already said that. You need the limb. You need to group them up. Your Blood Boil, your Dancing Rune, your Heart Strike, your Death Chain, it all cleaves. You need to cleave. That's how you're going to make this work. And then you find the lowest health target and you activate your Sanguination Runeforge, because if their health is really low, then they take more damage from Death Strike with all the other Death Strike modifiers, and you finish them off. You're doing a huge limb go. You're going to see this in all the clips. So if it's not like resonating yet, you'll see it soon. Huge limb go. Pull everybody together. Death Chain them all together. Pop all your offensive cooldowns. And then find the lowest target. Death Strike them. And by the way, if they don't die, that Death Strike is also going to resonate to the other players in the chain. So they're all going to keep getting cleaved to death. And it's going to be nearly impossible for them to live with. And I've been shredding with this so far. But yes, Necrolord. You're going to go into the Bonesmith. Soulbind just for Carver's Eye, because it gives you so much mastery for free, and you're cleaving anyway, and this is really impactful for Burst because it's the first 5 seconds of every game. It's just so much mastery. You want the Adaptive Armor Fragment because your potency conduits are not that great. And then you want Accelerated Cold. Isn't that hilarious? It's a Frost conduit, but you have Empower Rune Weapon now, so you get an extra 6% haste, which is your best stat. So you actually just run Accelerated Cold because your potencies are not that great. And make sure you grab that Carver's Eye and the Bonesmith Hammer, and you are golden. Okay, so that's how to build the character. Let me show you the rotation real quick once, because it's not often that I make a Blood DK guide, so I might as well. I'm going to drop the D&D on them. I'm going to pop my Dancing Rune, get my Empower out, pop a Blood Boil for the double disease on everybody, a Merrowwind for the huge haste, Death Chain, and then start spamming Blood Boil, Death Strike, Hard Strike, Death Strike, that kind of thing. So watch this. D&D down. Dancing Rune, Empower. There's that Blood. There's the Death Chain, Merrowwind, and huge hits, right? And of course, I don't have all my modifiers from Limb because you would throw Limb in there, which you'll see in the clips. But honestly, look at that 100k Death Chain. Just me. When I have partners, it's absolutely nuclear. So that's how it's going to look. Get those big Death Strikes in there. Enjoy the clips. Go have fun in solo shuffle. I cannot believe how unbelievably powerful this is. Who would have thought it? Have fun. What is that gate? Okay. Thing. Oh my god, I have perfect Death Chains. Mosting. I have the most right here. Nope, I have this. Blind. Still doing damage. Dude, what the... They're all dead. The prot died first. I did 30k DPS. What? Oh, that's okay. Okay. I still think there's a chance. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Dude, what happened? Oh, God. This is good for us. Limping. Try and get the... Ooh. Whoa. Okay. Oh, it's right here. Big pressure. Oh, no way! Dude. I'm fine. Mosting? Oh, Jesus. Can I have a lot here? Like a lot? Like a lot? Don't die, Feral. Nope. Stun this? He's gonna die. Maybe not. Whoo! Oh! 37k. Okay, I have a lot right here. I have a lot right here. Cloakman. Don't die. Blind this. Cloakman. I can kill him. Oh my god! I was top damage in a group with thugonomics in it.